All right, hey guys. So today, that's Felix. Here I am. I'm gonna show you how to actually sculpt like a face in relief that can then be added here. This is not finished, it needs to get covered, but the idea is that you're making like a profile. It could still get built up a little bit, but I'm gonna show you how to get started, okay? So this is kind of like what you're gonna do for the first step. So if I was to sort of open this up, it would just be like a flat, like oval shape. So I'm gonna start with an oval, but I'm gonna look at, so I'm just using Goose Island, cardboard case, all right? So I cut it open, I used a pair of scissors. You can use an X-Acto knife or utility knife if you have it. And you wanna basically figure out, like I have my book open here. Oh, you are gonna have to go down. Okay, now you can be over here, all right. Okay, so I have these rubber bands that are holding everything shut, so that will help to just kind of keep it flat, and it'll help me to figure out, okay, how big do I want that? Now that's a little bit on the big side, so I'm going to make it just a little smaller, something more like that size. It'll also be less difficult in some respects. So what I'm going to do is just basically draw an oval shape. Okay, so I could use a ruler, that could help in terms of just figuring out how big it should be. So this is kind of on the wider side. That's about 5.5 inches by 8.5. So I'm going to make it smaller than that. I'm going to make it like 6.5 inches by closer to 4.5 inches. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just do that over here so I don't have as much to cut. And I'm going to create an oval shape, just like that. I used a Sharpie marker, hopefully you can see that. And now I'm just going to use my scissors and cut that out. Okay. I like this cardboard the best for doing something like this because it is less bulky, it is easier to bend, a little bit more forgiving, just easier to work with. If you don't have an empty box, you could always empty out something, put the contents into a Tupperware plastic container, something like if you have cereal, you could do that. So then the next step, the easiest thing to do is to just slice it about, I don't know, 2 inches I did there. Same thing here, about 2 inches down. And I have masking tape. I'm literally just gonna pull that together like this, and I'm going to tape it so that it is wrapped around the top here and it goes around there. I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to pull it together just to create like a little bit of a relief so it's like popping out. Okay, so I have tape just kind of pre-cut for myself. Just that does make life a little easier. Okay, so now I have like essentially like this awkward looking profile shape that's missing a nose, okay? But it does have some shape to it, which is good. So the next thing I'm going to do is figure out where the eyes should go. And I seem to have misplaced my marker. Lovely. Okay. Probably sitting right there and I just can't see it. Okay. How odd. I just used it. This will work just fine. Okay. So what we have here is the face. So if we go down here like this and we figure out where the halfway point is, that's technically where the eyes should go. Okay, so I'm going to, I have this image here to help me. I'm not making a really realistic looking face, but I am modeling it after a mask. I think it's easier to do that than to find like a picture of a face, but if you could find a mask, an African mask is always really good, as is, what else? Mexican masks are always kind of good. There. Just so I can have like an idea of where my features are going to be. Okay, so it definitely looks like it could be a little less pointy up there, so I can cut that, round that off. And next I'm going to go ahead and just cut those eyes out, just so I have a negative space there. I'm also going to make a slit for the mouth. So I'm just going to start with, you can use scissors for this. I think it's easiest to start with a little bit of a knife cut. Same thing over here, and then I'll finish with a pair of scissors. If you don't have a knife, that's okay too. You can just do it by sliding your scissors in, okay? And then I'm just going to sort of cut a little bit away just to have that cut out, okay? The next thing I'm going to do is build it up with foil, and then I'm going to basically show you how to do a paper mache technique using book pages as your paper. But you can use newspaper too, especially if you have like language, if you have newspapers in another language, that always looks really interesting if it applies to your idea. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Okay. Alright, so that's not too terrible. If I had like a smaller pair of scissors, it might be a little better. Okay. Now this mouth is going to be pretty much, oh, there's my marker right there. That's ridiculous. Okay. So this mouth is going to basically kind of get cut here. So I'm going to just kind of cut that out. It'll just make it easier so I know where it's going to go. Does not have to be perfect by any stretch. You'll be able to sort of model it with the tin foil. Okay. Okay, that's actually okay with me. All right, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to literally take a big sheet of aluminum foil, and I am going to actually create a bit of a nose just by pushing in the middle here. And then I am going to, you know what? Probably would be easier if I just wrap the top. Try to think really simple for you guys. I can figure out where those eyes are going to be. Okay. And I'll just tear the excess off and sculpt with that. Okay. So the whole thing's going to get wrapped. That's just going to be easier because now I'm going to have a smooth surface. And then I can take my knife and I can figure out where those holes are going to go, kind of push those in. Same thing down here, there's a hole here. All right, Felix, you gotta move, bud. Can't be here. Okay. All right, so we have that. Now we're going to start to, we're going to start to sculpt the nose. Okay, so I'm going to take a piece that's kind of, I don't know, just a piece about that big. It doesn't need to be a perfectly square piece. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just create kind of like a triangular looking shape here. And I'm just going to kind of push it in. Okay. And honestly, like, so basically all I'm really doing is like creating this illusion of that shape. And so now I've got my tape right here, so I'm going to tape that on. I can come back and I can create more shape with that pretty easily. So let's just go ahead and do the mouth next. Okay, so the mouth is going to, I'm going to just basically create like an upper lip right here just by creating this kind of shape. And then I'm going to tape it on so it's kind of smooth and it's like connecting to the face. Okay. If I want to have more of a nose shape, I could basically create more of like a ball kind of shape down below. Right here. And I could just, you know, lightly kind of push in for where those nostrils should be, just to give it a little bit more of a nose bulge, if you will. So all I'm doing is just like adding a little bit here and there. You can see from the side it's starting to like create some massing. I'll do the same thing down here for this lip. Now keep in mind these are really thin lips. So they're not going to be super duper like use my scissors to push that a little bit. You'll see that having a lot of tape is going to actually help make everything look a little bit smoother. Starting to get a shape come to life. Okay, so then as far as the forehead goes, that's going to have some bulk to it too. If you think about our eyebrows, you actually have a lot of shape. You know, you don't want to have a bumpy head. That's where the tape can actually come in handy. Okay, so I'm just kind of like balling it up. I'm just sort of smashing it on the back there. And then my tape will come in handy. But what I wanted to do was I just wanted to create a little bit more of a bulging forehead. And I can keep doing that, kind of just keep building it up. I'm just kind of like pushing it in on itself like that. Careful not to go too crazy, because you don't want it to look like, you know, crazy Cro-Mag. But you do want to have the head start to create the illusion of a brow just by building that up. Okay, so my eyes are still here, so I can keep going with it. For the eyes, I'm just going to kind of create an eyelid just like this. And I'm going to smash it down and start to create that form there. Okay, so I'm starting to build up a little bit. It's starting to get there. Okay, might not want to put a little bit of more tape there on the nose. You'd be surprised by how much tape you're going to need. But you'll just explore it. It doesn't have to be great. You just have some fun with it. You could have all kinds of expressions. You could do something more like, I don't know, like an animal kind of thing would be cool. Something with horns might be interesting. It's up to you. Possibilities are limitless. You're only limited by your imagination. I know that sounds corny, but it is true. Okay, so I'm just doing this here. Oh, I should have put some tape on that one on the left side. That's okay. This is where, like, I want this to look like it's got a crease happening there. So when I start to actually do some paper mache work, it'll come together a little bit more too. Okay, put this there. See, this tape just smooths everything over, which is really nice. So I have this like crazy weird indentation right there. So that kind of just smooths it over. So the idea is that I'm starting to like create the illusion. I want this to be smooth. So the smoother you want it, the more tape you can put on. You can keep on sculpting. You can make little cheeks. And you can actually kind of create the illusion of that kind of popping up a little bit here. like that, and just kind of tape it down. And honestly, like, it doesn't need to be super, super realistic to be really cool looking, honestly, like, because by the time, once you start, like, doing the paper mache stuff, you'll see it's just, it'll start to come into life, especially since it has, you're going to use, like, printed words and stuff. You can also look at yourself as a reference, just to see, like, okay, how far up does how much do I need to build up? And you can see that's starting to happen. And then I'm just going to keep taping it and smoothing it until I'm happy with it. Keep figuring out where that eye is supposed to be and keep working on that. But honestly, like, a lot of the detail can come out once you start doing the, like, paper mache kind of thing. I would say that this nose needs to be a little bit more of a ball underneath. So just kind of does not need to be that much. A little bit of this stuff goes a pretty long way, especially when you're just getting some detailed work in there. Think about what nostrils look like. Okay. It's starting to come together. As you can see, it does take time, as all artwork does. It doesn't need to be perfect. But I'm going to show you how to start paper macheing it, and you'll see that you can do a lot of forming and building up when you actually start to use the actual, like, paper mache process. Of course, the nicer it is at this step, the easier it's going to be for you to make it look pretty realistic. But that is starting to get there. I would probably build a little bit more. I would definitely build more here. I'm going to show you how to do that. And then I'm going to stop once that's got a little bit more shape to it. Because the more you can kind of indicate that there's a brow there, you can see there's like a, the better off it's going to start to look. It's actually pretty fun to do once you get into it. It can be a little intimidating because you're doing a face. So just keep going and going and going, keep looking and looking, and if you overdo it, just tear it apart. Do it over again. This is my third time doing this, so just so you know. Right, so I just keep going. And with the eyes, you probably want to, like, make kind of like a little snaky shape. Like that. And then literally create the illusion of a lid happening there, and then having the tape kind of smooth everything out. I'll show you how to finish that off. So you have, looks a little crazy right there. It looks like it's flattening out. So I need to, you know, I don't want to stop it. Something that looks bad. So you can get pretty expressive with this stuff and make some really interesting stuff. I would say that, like, the more expressive the face, actually, the easier it is to sculpt. Okay, so I'm starting to get there. I'm gonna have to put a little bit. Oh, you know what? Put that. I'll put that in there, and I'm starting to get the illusion of a face. Of course, my face looks a little different than that, but it's not too terrible. It's getting there. Having the illusion of depth is important. So thinking about the fact that like it's going to, you know, you're going to have an eyelid that's going to recess. And showing that is important, but you don't want to recess it so much that it looks odd. So you have to actually put a little bit more. You have to do something like this right here. And I'm starting to get the illusion of that face coming together. In fact, I like my face starting to come out. It's not perfect yet, but it's getting there. Okay. So I'm just going to finish taping this up a little bit just to show you like how when you do tape it, use smaller pieces to just kind of smooth it in. Okay, it's happening. I may need to put a little bit more cheek in there, but you can see like, and always like test the side so it starts to look like it's actually, you know, starting to look like it's forming the shape of a profile. Don't worry about the nose and everything being perfect and everything being perfect. Like I said, once you start doing the paper mache stuff on it, you'll see that you can actually start to form stuff as you go. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just speed this up. It could be a little more rounded right there, but not too terrible.